Hello. So you caught me here at Steep Church, just putting some flowers onto Mary Ann Waller's grave. Um, so in the video you're going to see in a few moments, we will tell her story. Good morning, welcome back to Footsteps of the Past. So today's story starts here in Steep, and is rather a sad tale. A young lady of the age of 21, Mary Ann Waller, was the daughter of a local farmer here in Steep and lived down on Steep Farm, which today still stands and is behind the cricket grounds and tennis courts. So Mary Ann, before she went down into Petersfield, had lunch with her family, which consisted of mutton, rhubarb pudding and water. Mary Ann made her way down to Petersfield, where she met up with Martha Bull, who was her teacher many years ago, like I say, and some of the children at the schoolhouse. After leaving the schoolhouse, they went into the square and met up with a few more of the younger children that were going with them to St Peter's Church for a baptism. I have some notes here that kind of pants out what happened. So, Miss Martha Bull opposed to having known the deceased from an early childhood. She had been in our establishment many years, first as a pupil and afterwards as a teacher. They entered St Peter's Church for the service. And during the christening service, a pupil by the name of Helen Collins, who was 10 years old, she heard something fall on the floor of the pew, and on looking round saw Miss Waller lying on her face. Several persons came to the pew. They raised her up and carried her out. Now, we'll be going down to Petersfield later, and I can show you where they carried her out, or while waiting for the doctor to arrive. Another eyewitness account, Anne Harrison, wife of William Harrison of Petersfield, said that she was at the church on the Sunday afternoon. Her pew is next but one to Miss Bull's. She saw Miss Waller come in with several young ladies and noticed particularly how smiling and well she looked. Anne Harrison was standing with her back to Mary Ann when she heard a noise, and on turning round she saw that this deceased had fallen in the pew. She went to her immediately. Marianne was lying on her face and she raised her head. Witness did not observe the least movement. Her eyes were open and blood was flowing freely from her nostrils. She did not hear the deceased speak or move or utter any sound whatsoever. She went to get some vinegar and on returning found several persons removing her from the pew into the porch. Mr. Ross was sent for and he came immediately and he did not observe any breathing when he raised her head. Thomas Louch, a pew opener at the church, deposed that on hearing a noise in the direction of Miss Bull's pew, he went down the aisle and he was going to head towards said pew. He saw Mrs. Harrison leave her pew and go into Mrs. Bull's. When he got to the pew, he found deceased lying on her face. He raised her up, and there appeared to be no life in her. He never heard a breath or a groan or anything of any sort, and the only motion he saw was a slight drawing up of the hands. He went for Mr. Ross, and seeing him in the high street, hailed him, and he came immediately. Mr. R.S. Ross deposed that as a medical attendant of the deceased family, he had known Marianne for many years. She had not lately been under his care, and he had never attended her for any serious illness, and was not aware of the existence of any latent disease. So this account is from him. He was leaving the house of a patient in the high street. He heard someone running and calling, and on looking round he saw the last witness beckoning him. He begged he would come to the church, and some lady had fallen and cut her head very much. He went with him and found the deceased in the south porch, supported in a sitting position. She was quite dead. There was an abrasion on the right side of her forehead and also on the right cheekbone. There was evidence of blood having flowed from both nostrils. The countenance was of a livid hue. The hands were not clenched. The nails were of a purplish tinge. He had no doubt that death arose from natural causes. It might have arisen from disease of the heart, but her state of health up to the time hardly bore out this supposition, and he thought it possible it might have been no more than a fainting fit. The severe blow on the head, amounting to concussion of the brain, having so far embarrassed that organ that with a temporarily disabled heart, life ceased almost immediately. The jury returned a verdict of death by natural causes. And Marianne thought he was taken by cart to her father's house up here in Sneap, where an inquest was heard on the Tuesday, and which by reckoning would be the 30th of May of that year, 2 days after her death. So we're now going to go down to Petersfield and I'll show you where Mary Ann fell. See you soon. Thank you for watching. Please like, please subscribe, and remember, no one knows where their history will take them. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.